Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. 3 veterans who won't make the Steelers' Week 1 roster. The Steelers' offseason has been up and down, with some well-received moves, excellent draft, cheap upgrades at QB, and some questionable decisions, trading Diontae Johnson, hiring Arthur Smith. Still, the overall health and quality of the roster compared to 2023's version is notably better as training camp nears. Players who were guaranteed roster spots in past years and even some new additions may not be good enough to make the 53-man roster. Let's look at some potential veteran players who may be out of luck come Week 1. The Steelers have brought in several low-end receivers to replace the departed trio of Allen Robinson, Diontae Johnson, and Miles Boykin. Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller, and Quez Watkins all signed for the veteran minimum this free agency, and you could pick any one of these guys to not make the team without much argument. Watkins though feels like the odd man out to me when considering what he brings skill set-wise to the room. Watkins is a pure deep threat with plenty of speed to burn, but he is just one full season of real success filling that role. Calvin Austin LLL and Miller both have a similar skill set but offer value on special teams that Watkins hasn't so far in his career. Jefferson meanwhile is a bigger-bodied outside receiver who can hopefully be a possession receiver opposite George Pickens. Unless Watkins can prove he is a significantly better burner than both Miller and Austin LLL, I don't see him making the team out of camp. The slot corner spot was one of the few glaring issues still present for the Steelers after free agency and the draft, so much so that they brought in a player who was out of the league in 2023 as a potential solution. Anthony Averett has mostly played outside corner since entering the league in 2018, but his smaller size, 5 feet 11 inches, 185 pounds, may be a better fit inside while still providing depth outside. With so many young and unproven players in the corner room, adding a veteran like Averett made sense. That was until former Steelers corner Cam Sutton returned to the team on a 1-year deal following his release from the Detroit Lions. Legal issues aside, Sutton will almost assuredly be the team's primary slot corner in 2024 and provide depth on the outside, just like Averett would have been asked to do. Now that Sutton can provide the veteran presence that the group needs, Averett will have a hard time beating out the younger and more talented guys down the depth chart. When the Steelers sent a 2022 fourth-round pick to the Dolphins for their fifth-rounder in 2021 to select Isaiah Loudermilk, many at the time, including myself, questioned the decision. Loudermilk had a solid but unspectacular career at Wisconsin as a tall, lean defensive tackle at 6 feet 7 inches, 293 pounds. He wasn't a great athlete on film or at his pro day, and he wasn't productive as a pass rusher, just 7.5 career sacks in 40 games at Wisconsin. So what could a plodding, undersized defensive tackle possibly provide the Steelers' defense? Well, it turns out not very much through 3 seasons. Loudermilk has played in 42 games with just under 600 snaps on defense and produced just 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 3 pass deflections. The Steelers added another smaller defensive tackle in the 2024 NFL Draft, snagging Iowa's Logan Lee in the 6th round. This time, though, they at least took a good athlete with some pass rush upside. Unless Loudermilk can show some signs of improvement across the board, he could be looking for a new team by the time Week 1 rolls around. We address you to your face. Plaxica Burress says Cowboys drama wouldn't fly in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers have seen their fair share of drama, especially during the days of Antonio Brown. But even then, they've usually run a fairly tight ship. While the Steelers are mostly drama-free currently, other teams are seeing serious issues pop up during the offseason. The Dallas Cowboys are one such team, and they may also be the most universally disliked NFL team, that makes their issues that much more fun to watch, especially for Steelers fans who remember Pittsburgh's loss to them in Super Bowl 30. One former Steelers receiver broke down the Cowboys' problem and explained why matters like these make being a Steeler so much different. Recently, Cowboys safety Malik Hooker insinuated that teammate Micah Parsons is more concerned with podcasting than playing football. Parsons then took to Twitter to fire back at Hooker, creating more drama. Former Steelers receiver Plaxico Burress discussed this issue on his podcast, Up on Game. This would never happen in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. These things would never happen because everybody is their own leader, Burress said. If you got a problem with somebody, it's gonna get addressed. That is how we governed our football team. You got a problem with somebody, whatever they're doing, if they ain't out there giving effort that you think they should be playing with, we address you to your face as a grown man in Pittsburgh. That's the difference between playing in a locker room with the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. Burress is correct that, most of the time, Steelers players have handled issues between each other internally, not taking to Twitter or a podcast to take shots at each other. There are exceptions, like when Martavis Bryant took shots at Sammy Coates on Twitter after the Steelers drafted Juju Smith-Schuster. But even then, the matter was resolved quickly and didn't seriously escalate. When the Steelers have had a player create too many issues, they haven't been afraid to cut ties. Brown and Bryant both got traded, showing everyone that the Steelers have no interest in being reality television. The Cowboys, on the other hand, love media attention. Ever since they accepted the title of America's team, after the Steelers rejected it, they've yearned for the spotlight. Perhaps no team in all of American sports is bigger than the Cowboys for that reason. However, that much attention can be a bad thing. When problems between teammates go public like this, they can become twisted and magnified before anyone knows what's happening. Suddenly, a team with Super Bowl aspirations is watching everything crumble around it. There are reasons Mike Tomlin likes to keep the Steelers low profile. The Steelers will play the Cowboys in Week 5 of the season, so if they want to keep fighting each other, that will only benefit Pittsburgh more. The Steelers going into a game and not being the team surrounded by drama in the media would be a welcome thing. While there were hints of issues involving Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph last year, players never went to the media to express their frustration publicly. The standard is the standard, and for the Steelers, that means handling locker room business in the locker room. They may have dealt with more drama than Burress lets on, but they still aren't as much of a circus as the Cowboys. Steelers Insider names Titans WR as candidate. The Steelers have spent much of the offseason focusing on the wide receiver room, which has seen a complete revamp. George Pickens and Calvin Austin are the only remnants of the 2023 room, with players such as Van Jefferson and Shelby Miller joining the roster. The departure of Deontay Johnson moves Pickens up to the clear first wideout spot, leaving a large hole at the second position. Jefferson and Miller have a chance to step up, but Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette sees it differently. The Steelers love reclamation projects, Fittipaldo said on the 93.7 The Fans' Joe Starkey show. That seems to be kind of a pet project for Mike Tomlin over the years. A lot of times, those guys don't work out, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Steelers took a flyer on a guy like that. I wouldn't give up much for him. You're probably talking about giving up a 6th or a 7th round pick. I mean, if that's the price, why not? I mean, you're collecting guys of that ilk anyway. Why not see if a former first-round pick can benefit from a change of scenery? The Steelers are no stranger to what Fittipaldo calls reclamation projects. In fact, both of their quarterbacks that they have now in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields could be considered reclamation projects. On the other hand, Burks' career has mostly been seen as a disappointment. Being the piece the Titans received in the A.J. Brown trade with the Eagles, Burks has been unable to completely break out in Tennessee. He has just 665 yards and 1 touchdown in 22 games played with the Titans. Obviously, the constant comparison to Brown hurts the perception of his career, but he has simply not performed to expectations up to this point. Now behind DeAndre Hopkins with the Titans, Burks will look to prove himself in the coming year. The Steelers seem satisfied with other position groups on the roster, leading me to believe this isn't a move the front office would want to make. It would not be worth the capital, player, or draft they'd have to give up in order to land Burks. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Treylon Burks? Leave your opinion in the comments.